of Mindful and Melanated, which is a peer-led online community for Black women who need a safe space to tackle our unique issues surrounding mental health and wellness. Today, I want to just take a little moment and share a little bit about my journey and why this podcast and the Mindful and Melanated community are so close to my heart. So since childhood, I have been battling depression since about the age of 12. My first suicide attempt was about 12 years old. It was a dark and confusing time for me. I felt utterly alone in my struggle. And as I grew older, I learned to wear a mask to hide the pain that I was experiencing inside. So publicly, I was this overachiever. I was excelling in my career and my personal endeavors. But privately, I was numbing my pain with alcohol, trying to escape the relentless grip of depression. After several depressive episodes and a few breakthroughs, I realized that I couldn't keep living this double life. I decided to share my story, hoping that by opening up about my struggles, I could help other Black women who might be facing similar battles. This was the beginning of my mission to create a safe space for us to discuss our mental health openly and honestly. So, Mindful and Melanated was born from this desire, a community where Black women can come together, share experiences, and support one another on our journeys to mental wellness. It's a safe space where we can tackle again our unique challenges as well as celebrate our triumphs, no matter how small they may seem. In addition to Mindful and Melanated, I had also created the Strong Black Women Redefined Conference, which was the trailer that you just saw prior to me coming on. This annual event brings together providers, politicians, and individuals with lived experience to dismantle the cultural construct of the strong Black woman. Now, this stereotype often pressures us to be everything to everyone all the time without acknowledging our own needs and vulnerabilities. It's time we define what it really means to be a strong Black woman, embracing our strength, yes, but also our softness, our humanity, and our need for support. I have been humbled and honored to be recognized by the Massachusetts Department of Mental Health, the state legislature, and other community based organizations for my advocacy work. But the true reward comes from the connections I've made through this community and the lives we've touched through these efforts. On this podcast, you'll hear some candid conversations with inspiring guests, from mental health professionals and advocates to women who have bravely shared their personal stories of resilience and growth. We'll explore topics like self-care, overcoming adversity, and the importance of community. So if you're ready to kick the habit of being a strong Black woman in the traditional sense and embrace a new, healthier, more holistic definition of strength, then you are in the right places. So thank you for joining me on this journey. Together we'll break this silence, embrace vulnerability, and build a supportive sisterhood where every woman can thrive. So without further ado, I want to bring on a very special guest, Lashana Lady Stewart. She is an
Hello.
amazing. Hey, girl, hey. How are you?
I'm blessed and I am forgiven.
I know that's right.
Yes.
I know that's right. Um, so today I want to talk a little bit about, you know, your journey as far as you being a parent, your professional endeavors, your educational endeavors, your business endeavors. But the first thing I kind of want to talk to you about, lady, is the fact that you have instilled in your children that your past does not define you.
Mhm.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? And if you don't mind sharing a little bit about like your past and how you feel like your past doesn't necessarily define you.
Okay. Well, again, thank you for having me. And everything that I speak here today, I do want this to be a blessing to somebody because someone has actually encountered a lot of probably what I've went through. So I do want to use this as a testimony and let you know that your past does not define who you are. I came from a very small town called Bronson, Florida. I was born in Columbia, South Carolina. Uh, my father had a third grade education. My mother had a 10th grade education. Amongst these two parents, there were 7 children. Me being the second to the baby. None of my siblings, first off, graduated high school. None of them. I was the only one that graduated high school. I did not have the opportunity to actually be out with the norm, those in my age group, my norms. I didn't have the opportunity to do a lot of that because my father was very, very strict on me. Not saying that he was a bad person, but I thank him for the person that I am today. So for one, overcoming that barrier of education, I had to break that generational curse. I knew that I wanted to do something with myself because as I looked at my other siblings and I was like, oh no, that something has to be broken at some point. So I graduated high school. After that, I went on to college and I obtained 3 degrees, many certifications. I mean, varying from real estate, healthcare, surrogate. I mean, the list can go on and on, just minor different certifications that I've obtained over the years. So I've always had that push. However, coming out of my father's house, I had my first child at 19. His father went to prison when I was about going on 20. So I raised my son. I had to. He was sentenced to 15 years. So I knew that I would have to do it on my own. It was a mandatory sentence. So I moved forward and then I had another child. Again, this is my second child by 2021. And I knew at that moment that I would have to do it on my own, and just watching how he raised his children, because my mother wasn't always there, but he kind of picked up the slack. But one thing my father never did is he never down talked my mother. He never made it seem like she was this bad person. And that is what I love the most. And I've grown to be, I've become more conducive to what he has taught me. And I value that because regardless of whatever the situation is that I go through with any of my children's fathers, I know how to keep it at a pace where it's positive. I don't want to put anything in my children's head to make them think that, their fathers are this or so on and so forth. So I grew up with that notion that this is how, I'm supposed to raise my children. Always be there for them, regardless if it gets hard, regardless if it's tough. You still stand in the paint. You still have to go hard. So after my second child, again, I'm working. I was a CNA, a certified nursing assistant at this hospital. I was there over a period of about 15 years, but during the duration of that time, I said, you know what, this is just not it for me. I can't settle for this. I have goals that I really want to reach. So then I went to school and obtained my AA degree, and that's in general studies. And then I said, you know what, I want a little bit more because I'm just not going to get to where I need to be unless I actually put in that effort. So, and then I obtained my bachelor's in education, elementary education with ESOL and reading endorsements. And then I said, you know what? Education just isn't what it's supposed to be. I want more. I still want more. It just seems like when I came up, learning was so fun. When I was in school again, I didn't have an opportunity to hang out or, really go to basketball games and so on and so forth. I played, but then it's like I gave up. That just was not me. So, after I obtained my bachelor's degree and I began to teaching in the public school systems, I said, you know what, this just isn't me. I need more. My kids, by this time I have 3 kids and, I'm doing okay. I'm single parenting, which is kind of what I think I preferred at the moment, because anything more than that would be more like a strain on me. And my focus was always solely on my children. So I go to school and I obtain my bachelor's, after I obtained my bachelor's degree, I got pregnant again. I'm like, oh, okay. So at this point, I'm just like, okay. And I always wanted a big family. I just want to say
Yeah.
this. I just didn't realize, I thought really I would be at 3 or 4. And, that would be that 2 boys, 2 girls. And that would be that. So I said, you know what? I'm still not where I want to be. I began still worked. I'm still working. I'm still putting in the effort, wanting to make sure that my children could live a wealthy lifestyle. So most of the times, and I looked at it like we look at it as it takes a man and the woman. It takes the mother and the father, which it does take the mother and father, but I had to come to realize that it might not all work in the same household.
Right.
So we began to co-parent, and we came up with coping strategies to be able to deal with each other. At this time, I had another child, my 5th child. This is baby number 5 now. I'm in my master's program. I'm getting my master's degree, and it's just like I'm dating. And nonetheless, I find out, which really broke my heart right prior to my mother passing. I got into a relationship with this man that did not disclose that he was married. So I ended up having a child, but because of my beliefs, I didn't believe in aborting. Like I was like 3 or 4 months pregnant when I found out. Uh, and then it was just like I again, that's just not, it wasn't in my belief. So I'm like, God, okay. And I never spoke after my child was born. My 5th child was born. I never spoke with him. He was at the hospital for about 3 or 4 hours, and I never spoke with him or seen him after then. And it's been almost 12 years now. So my son has never even seen him. So it's just kind of like, I don't want to make it seem, and it's by choice, because I feel like already that was something that I had to go to God for. And it, that alone taught me, okay, Shauna, you have really got to put in the effort to get to know who you are, because you're so much more valuable than just being a piece of meat or just a piece of something to somebody. So at that point, I said, you know what? I'm just going to solely focus on me, because I was looking in love and for love in so many different places. And again, not that my dad or my mom didn't show it to me, but it was a different type of affection.
Right.
Like a really
Exactly.
tough love. But I needed that genuine touch. I needed that touch to, I just want to let you know, let's talk about ways to, get through life without, the attention of a male. Or I didn't have that. And my dad wasn't going to talk to me about that, because he didn't want me dealing with no men. Like, it was just like I was daddy's girl. So it's like, no, we're not talking about no. But it was never, sweetheart, one day, you're going to meet a man. It was never, he was really tough, but he loved us. He did what
Yeah.
he knew what love was. That was his illustration of it. So at this time, my 6th and my 7th came from my husband, my ex-husband. I ended up getting married after that. In the marriage for about 5 years, we were married, and there were so many different struggles that we went through, that we encountered through the duration of this marriage. I felt like I married for longevity. I felt like this would be my first and last husband, and it was not. There were challenges that we both faced. I had expectations as to, this is the way that it's going to be because of what I experienced here. And we were on one page from day one until after the wedding. And everything changed. It was like, no, this is the way that it's going to be. And so we were just on 2 different sides of the fence. So again, with me remembering, like, okay, don't accept this. You don't have to tolerate this, or you don't have to go through. I decided that I would just end it. That was my initial petition for a dissolution of marriage. I found out I was pregnant with my 7th one. I had my 6th one. I found out I was pregnant with our 2nd child together. Throughout the duration of that pregnancy, I was depressed. I was suicidal. I was going through trying to figure out if, like, what was it about me that made
Mm.
me have to go through so much because I'm looking at all these other situations. But then I begin to reflect and I'm like, God carried me through all of this. And if this battle, first of all, it's not even my battle to fight, but if he knew that I couldn't handle this or I couldn't do it, he would not have put this on me. So I had to realize that many people would look at it like, oh, you have, all these children, all these fathers, they're not there, so on and so forth. And I wrote my book, transitioning from breakdowns to breakthroughs, because of the same situation, is because I kept reliving something that I was missing until I had to say, you know what? I let go. God is in your hands. God, you're going to have to fix this for me, because every time I do it, I mess it up. I mess it up every single time. But because of a lot of the trauma, and, I'm going to go back a little bit, even about my mom. Like when I say that my mom and dad was there, I want to say that they were there to provide for us. They, my dad was there physically, financially, but my mom was only there physically at times, because she would come and go. The things that I feel like I needed from my mom, I did not get. I did not sit down. I didn't get a sit down talk because my mom was busy out in the streets. She passed from acute drug overdose.
Oh my
She
gosh,
had
I'm sorry.
on, drugs for years. But what stemmed from that was the stuff that she encountered from her parents. So again, I'm thinking about all of this in my head, like this curse has got to be broken from somewhere. So I've never been on drugs now, because I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, I understand I got all these kids, but I can't just leave them. I can't, what I'm saying? Like I have got, these are the kids that God gave me. So what I did was I gave my kids back to God. I say, Lord, okay, now they're in your hands. What do you want? What would you like for me to do? Not what I want to do. It's not about what I want. You gave them to me. So lead me, guide me. What is it that you want for me to do? And I think that a lot of times in life we get so caught up because it's always, I want. But what is it that God wants you to do? Have you one time asked, okay, God, I know I'm in a situation, or, I know I encountered this, but whatever it is that you want me to do, I'm willing to do it, and that's when we begin to find peace in everything that we do, when we learn how to lean on him. So then I began to lean on him. I say, Lord, I'm going through this. I end up having our second daughter. I'm going through depression. I'm fighting. I have suicidal thoughts. Like, okay, I just want to end it, because it's like I keep ending up in these same situations, and a lot of people will look at these situations and they will judge you for it, not knowing that, first of all, God made me in his own image. That's what a lot of people fail to understand. If it wasn't allowed, if God did not intend for it to happen, and even myself, I didn't understand why. I judged myself like, oh, you're better than, you could have been better than that, or you could have made smarter choices, or so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's about whatever the will of God is. So then I began to proceed on with my life. The initial dissolution of marriage was thrown out because there was so much stuff that was said in the courts and so on and so forth. So they just threw out the case, and they was like, okay, just work it out. There's another child that you're bearing, another child. Da, da, da. So I proceeded to go on. Nothing changed. It was continued infidelity. It was abandonment. When I was left with absolutely anything. I ended up going to jail because of all the stress that I was at, the weight that was holding on me. I was stressed out. I was frustrated, always trying to figure out, okay, what can I do to keep my husband home, or what can I do to, let him know that, yes, I'm trying to be a mom, and I'm always disciplining my kids. And in reality, I had to think, my kids, God just brought it to me, they're acting out for a reason. Like, what is it that's missing? Their mental was messed up too,
Right.
So what did it cost me? I had to go to jail. because I disciplined my son. You know, I got right back out the next day because I hadn't never had any priors or anything like that. So then I'm dealing with that. Like now my kids are scattered out all over the place. Department of Children and Families has my kids, and they're like, okay, now you got to go through these mental health classes. Now you got to go through psychological assessments and so on and so forth. And again, I've never, and me and my children have always been close. But because I'm trying to prove a point to man, not God, but to
Right.
man that, oh, I can be this and oh, I can be that. I landed myself in that. But God didn't even ordain that from the beginning. That was something that I chose to do. Again, doing things because I thought that they were the best things to do. You know, so my children and I's relationship had been restored. I don't think I didn't have my kids for, it was only about 2 weeks. And they were like, you know, you have proven yourself to be you know, this fit mother. We don't see a reason why we can't. It's just this incident that happened. And you know, we're gonna, you know, we get ready to prepare the children to come back home, but getting ready to come back home, I lost my place. I lost my
Oh my
house. I had
goodness.
exhausted all my funds. So it's like, dang, they don't have anywhere to go. I had to move out, put my stuff in storage. My two younger girls from my ex-husband were living with their dad actually and his sister. I was sleeping in my car in Walmart parking lot for about 2 weeks. And again, I'm thinking like, okay, I have a husband. You know, I'm thinking to myself like, again, what in the world is going on? What like, why me, God? And at this point, like, I can't even, you know, begin to think. I can't even begin to tell you all how many times in my mind that I sat there, and even, you know, prior to my children going, because I had a little bitty baby that was born in December. I was homeless from October through March, I'm sorry, of 2019. So from October 2018 through March of 2019, but I didn't sleep in my car the whole time. I slept in my car for about 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I slept in a parking lot. I'll never forget. I'm talking about at this point, I had lost myself. And we're talking about, but prior to meeting him and everything, I'm talking about having $25,000-$30,000 in my account because all I did was ever work, and take care of my kids, saving tax returns. You like, I had my mind together, like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. To having negative $200 in my account, you know, I had been drained. Everything had been taken. My kids didn't have anywhere to lay their head. It hadn't even gotten to the point where I was like, oh God, I'm going to have to start selling stuff to even, you know, maybe I can get a hotel room tonight or something. However, his sister allowed me to come and stay there. Only for, you know, it's different when people allow you to come and stay with them, but then at the same time, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but you get a feeling like you're still not wanted there. But I got
Yeah.
an air mattress, and I blew up that air mattress, and I slept on that air mattress with my newborn at the time. My newborn got sick and had to stay in the hospital for 3 days. At that point right there, when I looked at my child and I was the only one that was there with her, I stayed there in the hospital with her. I said, Lord, I'm tired. I'm just tired. When I began to let go and I asked
Mm-hmm.
God to direct my path, and I said, God, I'm tired. I'm done. Okay, I wash my hands with myself. I give myself to you. That is when things had began to come together. I was blessed with a home. I had gotten another job, but I had to leave that part of me in the past.
Mm-hmm. So you just girl, you just gave us a whole Lifetime movie with the
But
trials and tribulations. Like
yes,
if it was me, I would have felt like I was being punished.
right,
Like
and that's
how did you, I mean, I know you said you let go. That's when you finally let go. That's when things started to turn around for you. But like day to day, how did you cope?
I think I cried a lot. Crying cleanses the soul. I cried a lot, and I thought about, because my mom had passed back in 2013. So I used to think about how strong she was, even though, and I loved my mother despite her addiction. And she also suffered from depression and bipolarism. So I used to think about that. So it, even during the duration of the time, I got referred to all these psychological tests and all that. I was diagnosed bipolar disorder with mixed emotions. Most recently, it was by borderline personality. I mean, all of these different things that I encounter. And again, I'm thinking to myself, I gotta break the curse. I gotta break. That's always been my mindset. So how do I break it? I come up with strategies, solutions. This is my goal, but what are the things that I'm going to do to achieve this goal? And I was just talking to my therapist yesterday, and I was telling her sometimes it hurts so bad to do the right thing only because you're used to doing the wrong thing. But when your mindset is stronger, you have the ability to say, okay, well, I don't have to respond to that. Or I remember when this here happened, that's what the outcome was. I had to put myself in a position where I had to truly look at my kids, cry out to God, ask him anything that's not like you, anyone that's out to do me harm, any actions that were taken, any gossip or any talk that was, said or behind my back or whatever. Lord, release it from me with no harm done. Before you know it, I was talking to myself in the house. You know what I'm saying? I was talking just to my kids. They was getting on
Yep.
my nerves, but I loved it. I loved every bit of it. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, it made me feel young again,
Mhm.
so because I feel like a big part of that, my youth was raising kids, raising kids and, having that rapport, that relationship with them. So that is how I pretty much, my kids have always been my motivation. And I look
Yeah.
at, and a lot of people look at me and be like, oh my God, you're so smart. You're so this, you're so that. But the obstacles, the things that I've had to go through to get to where I am, everything that I went through, everything that all of my achievements were achieved because of the obstacles that I had to go through. I'm like, okay, in order for me to overcome this, I'm going to do this. And okay, now I'm hit with something else. Okay, I was hit with that. So you know what? I'm gonna do this. Not, I've always had to
Yeah.
just kind of push myself to do other things. I don't know, other stuff that has happened even recently in the last couple of years. What do I want to do? I want to tell my testimony. Let me go ahead and start my podcast. Let me just
Yep.
get this on out here. It's things like that that have really pushed me. And I have a support system, and that is why I reach out to women as yourself, people that individuals that have went through that have encountered the same thing, because people will judge you and not even know your story. They
Don't
will
even
just
know what you're going through. Don't even know, like on a daily, like for me, I know for me, girl, like there was a point in my life where I would literally feel suicidal every single day. I'm
mhm,
at work typing on the spreadsheet, thinking about ways to kill myself. You know what I
right,
mean? Trigger warning. Sorry, I should have said that
mhm,
first. And it's
right,
like you're right. People do judge. It is, and it's not fair, but that's life. But I
mhm,
love how you took, like you used your obstacles as a catalyst to do
mhm,
better for not only yourself but for your kids. So I kind of feel like your achievements were almost kind of like your therapy for you. That's kind of what it sounds like to me.
mhm, right. And
You
I did.
know?
I felt like I think the biggest motivation is not allowing my children to see, because again, that's always breaking that barrier, breaking down the chains, the walls. I had to say, you know what? I don't want my children to experience anything that I've experienced. So I'm going to kind of move some things around to make sure that they don't have to go through what I went through. That's guiding them the right way,
Yeah.
making sure that I support them. Sometimes if I need to sit down and talk to them, I want them to feel open to talk to me, because again, not that I didn't have great parents and not that they weren't providers. Well, my dad wasn't a provider, but I just wasn't open. I was scared to talk to him about having a boyfriend or having a relationship. So when I got older, it was just like, I'm going all in. I'm like, okay, I got what, and not even knowing everything
Mhm.
that's behind it.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
I want my children to have my sons, my daughters, and people may say it's weird, but they talk to me about their relationships. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, but I want them. They're comfortable enough, and I'm comfortable enough to say, well, you know what? Let me share with you what I went through. Because
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
don't hide anything from my kids. My kids know everything. I have finna be four. It's four adults. Well, I have my fourth one is about to be adult. But I'm very proud of my children. I have my son is in the military. He's been dedicated now for 6 years. My daughter is a firefighter. She's now been dedicated for going on 5 years.
Wow.
My son is preparing to go to college again, but he is restarting barber school. Um, my fourth son, well, he's 17. So I'm just preparing. I'm really proud of my child, and he's gifted in so many different all subject areas, and he wants to go to college. He wants to go to the University of Florida. But I feel like as long as I'm there, as not saying that I'm being their friend, I'm still, they know the difference. Oh, they
Okay,
know,
listen.
they know
Okay.
because I can get on some levels with them, but they also know, they know when I'm serious. They
Mhm.
know when, okay, we can kind of cut the rug a little bit, but
Mhm.
we have that, there's a thin line between, being real, and then, okay, let's just kind of, it's a very thin line. But I want my children to understand that they can be open with me, that everything that I've encountered is not an excuse for me to not be here for you. Actually, it's more motivation for me to do better for you, or to be more of
Exactly.
an example for you. So, and I
Mhm.
think that if we look at it, we stop looking at the things that we go through as a negative aspect. We're always looking at it like, okay, why did I have to go through that? Oh, I was a punishment. It might be a punishment, because let me tell you something. A lot of times, a lot of things that our parents even did, or their parents did, or whatever, a lot of time karma skips the individual and it goes
Mhm.
down to the children. Or it may,
Mhm.
if it was something my mom or my dad did or whatever, it may skip me and go to my children. But again, it comes down to you. When you teach a child, even in the Bible it says that train a child up in the way that they should go, and when they grow up they will not depart from it. Meaning, if you teach them the way of life, if you teach them mannerisms, if you teach them how to treat people and how to have empathy and sympathy for other people, if you teach them and guide them down these paths, they already know. And if they tend to stray away just a little bit, they know how to get right back on path.
Exactly.
That is what I do to encourage even myself to keep pushing. I can't give up. I can't hurt or unalive myself, because these children need me. Compared
Mhm.
to society and where we're living in, what we're living in right now, you know, I couldn't even see anyone else raising my children. And
Yeah, this world is unhinged. This
right,
world right now is unhinged, is out of control. And I admire the fact that you allow your children to come to you about topics that may be, uncomfortable, like their relationships and stuff like that. I mean, I have a really, really, really good relationship with my mom.
right,
And I tell her about my relationships too. And then
right,
sometimes it's like you said, it's a thin line. Sometimes I be forgetting I'm talking to my mom. I be like,
right.
girl, let me tell you. She be like, I ain't girl. I'm like, my bad, mom. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
But that's the type of relationship that our children need.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be open
Mm-hmm.
with their parents. They and
Right.
the parents need to be allow them to be open with them without judgment. That's the
Exactly.
thing. That is where they always know that instead of taking my frustrations or my stress out on somebody out there in the streets, or me pulling a gun, or me
Yep.
becoming suicidal, or me, like I was telling you, I had a nephew that passed last September. He killed himself. He committed suicide. But I just kept thinking to myself, if like the parents, where were you? Why
Mm-hmm.
didn't you get one thing about my kids? And that was another thing I did. I made sure that they had a relationship with God. I didn't send my kids to church. And I'm not saying I'm being all holy, 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 but I'm just saying the prayers of the righteous, what's in the heart, God hears and God knows. They know that if they're struggling with something, if something were to happen to me today or tomorrow, they know where their help comes from because they've been
Mhm.
taught that. Go to God. When you can't go to your husband or your wife, go to God. When you can't go, they know the relationship that we have, how we come as mother and child. They need to establish that relationship and that bond with their children, and then their children will carry that on down to the next generation and have that relationship with their children. That is
Right.
what I call breaking the barrier. That is what I call
Absolutely.
breaking generational curses. It begins with me. I'm a very strong,
Mhm.
strong, strong Black woman. I've encountered so much, and I'm still here, even with my attempts to harm myself or unalive myself.
Mhm.
God say, I'm not, it ain't your time. It's
Right.
definitely not your time. And
Right.
we never understand, but now that I'm older, you know, it's all making sense. It's all making sense. It's coming together now because
Listen.
yes, I was chosen for this assignment. I was chosen for this.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? I ain't got it all together now, Regina. Now, you know what I'm saying?
Listen.
I don't have it all together, but you
Neither
know,
do I.
I solely take a lot of advice, and when I see women, such as yourself, and I just think about like someone else. This is just as important to someone else as it is to me.
Mhm.
It gives me
Mhm.
that alone right there gives me a push because I know that I'm not in it by myself. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? And we tend to think that we got it all together, like we can handle this. No, it takes more than just you. Like you say, you have your mom. I'm pretty sure that she's your support system. And
Absolutely.
that again, that would be enough for me. It just takes
Mhm.
that one person. I got 7 hearts, what I'm saying, that I can just love on and they can love on me.
Mhm.
It ain't all gravy sometimes. They disagree with me a lot. You know what I'm saying? But they're also young and they're yet to experience it. So I can tell them about it and I can share my experience. If they don't want to listen, because they're regular kids too. I still look at them my kids, even though they're in their 20s and so on and so forth. They're still my children. They're gonna always be my kids. If they don't listen, life will teach them eventually.
Yeah.
You can't say that I didn't tell you so. You get what I'm saying?
Exactly. No, I trust me, I get it. I was talking to my mom the other day about something. I forgot what it was. But I was
Mm.
like, yeah, I was on YouTube and I had learned how to do this, and this is gonna help me lose weight. She was like, Regina, I told you that 5 years ago. I was like, oh. So I guess life and YouTube had to teach me.
Yes, yes.
Life and YouTube had to
It,
teach me.
listen,
But you're
but we'll
right.
listen.
And it's like,
Yeah, we'll listen to somebody
uh,
else before we listen to. And my kids are like that. They will listen to everybody else. It's just something about mama, and then when it comes down to mom, remember that time when such and such and such? I'm like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
yeah,
Oh, mom, I already know what you're gonna say.
right.
So it's natural. It's
Yeah.
really natural, Regina. It's we just tend to do that. But
Mhm.
one thing that I could say in respect to even your mother is these people have wisdom. They've been around
Yes.
longer than we have. Um,
Yes.
that is why I still say, regardless or in spite of what the barriers, that my mom, the obstacles that she had to face, I still respected my mom. I still loved
Mhm.
my mom. My mom was dealing with an addiction, but it never stopped her from loving us. It never
Yeah.
stopped her, from saying, I'm gonna be back. I don't know when, but because I can't say she ever lied. She was
Mhm.
truthful. I'm coming back. I just don't know when, you know? And it
Yeah.
would be months and months and months and months. And my father never divorced my mom until the last one was out of the house. And so he had his belief on, staying married, keeping the family together, raising the children. And then when the last one was out of the house, then that was when he decided, but he never said anything. But those times are different than where we're living at right now.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And we do have to be very mindful of the experiences that they've had to face, the things that they've had to do to be where they are. And that is reflective on what they're going to show their children, which is myself and my 6 other siblings. Um,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
it's, I know for me, I had to learn how to give my mom grace, not only to her, like verbalizing it, but like also internally, because like I said, I've had depression since childhood. And back then they didn't know what depression was. I mean, I'm sure my mom knew what depression was, but it wasn't like a thing, you know what I mean? Like, especially in the Black community, it wasn't really like a thing. And
mm,
so I could be mad at my mom. Oh, you didn't give me a therapist when I was 13. I could blame her for that, but
right.
why?
Mhm,
Why? What is the point? She was working with what she had. You know what I mean? She learned from her mom, just like her mom learned from her mom, and so forth,
right.
so on and so forth. And like you said, little by little, you're breaking generational curses, but you're also building generational blessings at the
Right.
same time. And that's
Mhm,
what we have to do. We can't. I mean, we may have trauma from our past, whether it's past relationships or our childhood or whatever,
right.
but instead of pointing the blame on someone, we take that as a lesson learned. And
Mhm,
I'm not saying everything that happens to you is, oh, things happen for a reason, because I do not like when people tell me that.
right.
Because like, you're not going to sit here and tell me a child got molested for a reason. You're not going to
Right.
convince me of that, you know what I mean? But for to take that pain and that trauma and to turn it into something beautiful, like your podcast, like
Mhm.
your book. Girl, you got 7 kids ranging from the age of 5 to 24. How did you even juggle all that? I mean, you got 50 million degrees.
It was it was persistence.
Yeah.
It was definitely persistence. It was okay. I can't sit down. I my kids are watching me. I kept a job because I didn't want my kids to think that it was okay for them to sit around and wait for a handout or for someone to give
Hmm.
them things. So, children are gonna they're gonna do and mimic what they see. I wanted my children to understand that if you want something in life, you have to go after it. Yes, there's going to be challenges. You're going to face, there's going to be a lot of backlash sometimes. People are going to have their opinions, so on and so forth. But do what's in your heart, what makes you happy, what makes you content. You have to be the very best that you can be. I went and got my master's degree. I could have went further than that. I was enrolled in law school, Levin Law School here at University of Florida. And because I got myself caught up with this man, my ex-husband, whatever, I just completely, like, everything just went. And I'm like, it's like God said, I said, but Lord, this is my husband. You know what I'm saying? But again, that wasn't the will of God. So now
Hmm.
my children see, and I think that's why it's so hard for them. Like, my kids were like, I'm never having any kids. I'm never having any kids. Well, for one, because they've been too busy raising, helping them.
Raising their siblings.
Because listen, I used my children the best that I could use them when they got up in age. Like, okay, you're gonna babysit this one. I'm gonna go to work. I gotta go to school in a little bit. And then my mom and dad would come over prior to my mom and dad passing, they would come over and sit with the kids and like, okay, you home, because they didn't like them home by themselves at night.
Hmm.
But my children were always very responsible. They're very
Yeah.
that's something I taught them. I taught them things like you don't come in the kitchen, you don't turn on anything unless mommy's here. You don't we don't play with sockets. I mean, back then we used to have the little socket, the little things that you put in the little sockets.
Yeah.
My kids didn't do that. Back then, my daughter, she loved her little baby brother, honey. She kept it like he was a little baby doll and him dressing them up and all. So my kids were, they were very close and they're still to
Hmm.
this day. Now they bicker, but they're okay. It's not like we're falling out. We're never talking again. No, none of that.
Hmm.
They're very debative with each other, but that is because they get it from none other me. They get their smarts. They're very critical thinkers. I have some
Oh, I
critical.
love that.
I have some creative ones. You know what I'm
I
saying?
love that.
But
Hmm.
I mean, I just They say that they're never going to have kids. They say that it's I'm gonna wait till I get this and that and that and this. I'm gonna have me 2 houses. I'm gonna have this and that because they've seen what I've
Yeah,
had.
exactly. They seen what it looks like on the opposite end of the
Right.
spectrum. Right. Yeah.
So, and guess what? It was the same experience of I've seen what my parents had to go through.
Exactly.
So it can only get better and
Better.
better and better. So that's the way I look at it, and that's what pushes me is like I can't give up. I don't have a choice. I have to keep pushing. But for my help, for my strength, I have to go to God. Because if I had it my way and some of the way that, my children were being treated by, their other parents and so on and so forth. I mean, now we talk about it, but I still teach my children to love, in spite of, because at the end of the day, you don't have a heaven or a hell to put nobody in. That's still
Listen.
your father,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you talked about how you use your spirituality and you go to therapy, you have a therapist. What are some other ways that you take care of yourself?
Dating myself again. I never did that.
That.
Yeah, I never
Where
ever
you be
did.
taking yourself, girl? Where you be taking yourself?
So when I date myself, sometimes I get myself all dressed up. Sometimes I ride the city and be like, if I'm going to sit down and eat, I'll be like, no, that's just not. I don't want. So I'm teaching myself how someone else should treat me.
I love that.
So that is what, when you date yourself, you do that. Sometimes you get in there and, I might go do a face beat or something. I might have my little girls come in there and be like, you know what? Come on, let's beat my face and do it, honey. I'll be looking like 4 clowns up in here, honey, 4 different clowns. But, it's something for them too, I got little nail sets and so on and so forth. I'm like, you know what, y'all want to do my nails today? And I talk to them like, the Asian people would talk to their customers. I'm like, no, I don't like that color, so on and so forth. So that is what I do. And it makes me feel great. Having my me time. I have an adult daughter. She's 23. So a lot of times she'll get the kids. And when she gets the kids, I don't know. Maybe I'll date, but mostly I date myself. I might go out on a date, but I'm learning to just date myself, to love myself. Go get my nails done, go get my feet done, and just relax and just think about. One thing that I did most recently. This is another thing because, and again, I'm not claiming to be I'm not a prophetess, but I do have a relationship with God. I write different things down and I put them in my Bible. So I write them down, the things that I want for God to help me with. Like at one point in time, I had an issue with accepting who I was, and
what you mean by that?
Just accepting who I was as far as, I'm a mom with a lot of kids, Okay, so what? So I had to accept that. Yep. And each one of my kids are blessings to me. And I kept wondering, like I told you, like it all made sense in the end. It all made sense.
Yeah.
Okay, this is why you gave me, because let me tell you, I do for my own self, but if I didn't want to work or if I didn't have to do anything, that's just the type of genuine heart that my children have.
Yeah.
They said, Mama, you don't have to want for, and I really don't have to want for nothing. But again, I'm teaching them with what you have, you use what you've been taught. Go and do this. I'm a real estate agent. So right now I'm kind of walking my son through investment properties.
I love this.
Yes. So I'm telling him, okay, I know you may want to do this or, you may want to do that. But let me show you how to do this right here. Let's go on this website. We're gonna go look at this, and these are the foreclosures. These are the ones you can get. I mean, you can build them up, and we can get a grant to get this, and so on and so. So I use what I have to make sure that their future looks bright.
Yeah.
With my daughter, I'm like, you know what? There's so many grants out there that firefighters, anyone that's out there, firefighters, police, anyone that's out there serving the community. Yeah, this is out there. I'm putting them up on game. Like, this is what's going on, so on and so forth. But God bless me. God bless me to be able to do what I do and be there for my children, because now my children are there for me. You know,
Exactly.
even though I don't need it, I'm blessed. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying,
Mhm.
you know, um, I'm just glad that I'm able to be in a position where I can instill in them and not just give. Like, my kids never ask me for anything. That's a blessing all in itself. Is it- You need
I'm
we
always asking my mom for stuff, child.
Yeah, like, we do we need anything? No, mom, do you need anything? You know what I'm saying? So I'm fortunate to be able to be in that position. Um, but the biggest thing that I learned from it, but compared to where I was and where I am now, is a lot of things had to be removed. Cause
Oh, tell me about that. Tell me about that. What had to be removed? Was it a ninja? Was
it
it
was, honey, listen, not everyone is on your team. Not everyone is designed to
that?
go where God is taking you. You know what I'm saying?
I
So
do, girl.
a lot of times people have to fall off because, for one, God don't bless no mess. And a lot of times, again, I say we do things because we want to do them. It's not the will of God. And it's like, I feel like, again, I'm chosen for a lot of this. It's like God say, I chose you for this right here. I have you. This
Mhm.
is where I want to take you, but I can't take you there because they can't go with you. If I bless you,
Mhm.
I gotta bless them. You know what I'm saying? If I do this, so that's why I say that's where self-care, self-love, self-dating, all of that comes in.
All
Lord, use
that.
me how you want to use me, because I'm doing everything by myself. You know,
Mhm.
um but that all comes with experience. That comes with a lot of heartbreak. I'm gonna
Yeah,
tell you,
yeah.
it comes with a lot of disappointment. It comes with abandonment. It comes from all of these things that I've experienced in my life, and I think that's what made me the woman that I am today. Very
Mhm.
strong. um the things that I used to fret over, I used to cry over, now I try to just focus on happy tears instead of sad tears.
Mm.
You know what? I know that that hurt me. I know that I went through and I encountered that. But, so many times, like, I felt like God has shown me that the same ones that did this and that and that and this, now I look back and I reflect and I'm like, but God said that is why they could not go where you're going. Because you
Exactly.
would have been in that mix, or you wouldn't have been able to succeed, or everything, because birds of a feather gonna flock together.
They gonna flock. The
Yeah,
flocking's gonna flock. No, for
right.
real.
And
Mhm.
if God is wanting to take me it's almost like crabs in a bucket. Once you at that top right there, you at that top, God can easily just grasp you and pull you right on where he want. But you way at the bottom, he got to go through all of that. No, baby,
Mhm.
I need to be in my own setting, in my own box. I
Yeah.
need to be in my own. If you are not going where I'm going, if you can't have a positive mindset and understand that this is my feeling towards this, and I can understand yours, and we're growing together and we're keeping it positive and we understand each other and so on, then it's not for me. And I've had
Exactly.
why I didn't learn that years and years. Why I didn't learn it 15 years ago? Why didn't I learn it 20 years ago? Hell, why didn't I learn it 24 years ago? But you know what? It's the will
Mhm.
of God. And the will of
Mhm.
God will not take you where the grace of God cannot protect you.
There you
I
go.
was protected through all of this. I was protected. Even when I wanted to, I didn't feel worthy. When I didn't feel like, I was worth anything. It was like, oh, I don't like, the way that I present myself, or I don't think that, I think other people think, the hell with what other people think.
Right.
Again, God made me in his own image, but it took me a long time to realize that.
It took me a long time too. Like when I say long time, like recent, like within the last year and a half, 2 years recent. It took me a
Right.
long time. And then you got people in your life who'll be like, "Oh, you changed, bitch. That's what the fuck you supposed to do.
Right.
You ain't supposed
I
to
mean,
stay the same."
you're once you learn people and your place in their life, and you know what I'm saying, you begin to maneuver, you begin to make changes, you begin to say, okay, I understand that you want to be here, but I feel like I'm kind of over here, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? So there's no hate. That's why I say
Right.
There's remove them, Lord, with no harm done, God. No harm done. Just remove them, because I want to be able to set myself apart from all of the other BS. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I
I
need,
can't be around them shenanigans.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
I need when he get ready to do what he's gonna do for me, I need for him to do it in decency and in order. You know,
Yeah.
everything wasn't done in decency and order before. I was doing things because I wanted to do them. So all is well. I thank God. When I tell you I am blessed, and that is where I am today with everything. I'm mindful and I am melanated, honey. Do you
That's
understand what I'm
right.
saying?
I do.
Definitely. Next.
Okay. Check, please.
Check. You leave the tip.
Okay. You stupid.
Most definitely.
Well, let's talk about your book. Like, where can we get your book?
Okay, so my book is on Amazon. It is, if you type in my name, it is up under Lashana Stewart. I actually have a copy. Well, this is the author's copy, but this is the face of it.
Oh, I love that cover.
Yes, the chains coming down. It's called Transitioning from Breakdowns to Breakthroughs.
Is that you in the picture?
That is me.
Girl, I
Yes.
love that picture. So tell me how you came up with that title, Breakdowns to Break. I mean, I kind of get what it means, but why don't you explain it for us?
Well, so I got that title because of all of the things that I encountered. Like I had never, I don't, if people went through stuff, I just never knew about it. I was like, oh, baby, I went through a lot. I'm talking about from early childhood. I just felt like I was purposely put on this earth to go through things, to, so when I say I'm transitioning from breakdowns, all the different things that really broke me down, the things that I've had to encounter, the places that I've had to go, the things that were done to me, the people that came in and pretended to be this, and so on and so forth. Even my breakdown was when the death of my parents. That is really truly what almost took me out the third time, and again, with all these attempts, I wasn't even touched. It didn't even matter because that was not the will of God. But how I overcame those things, how I continued to have that, how I was pushed into, drive and like, okay, keep going, keep pushing. I had to go through some stuff. So in the book, it just simply talks about my childhood, what I've experienced throughout my childhood, but how I overcame that. So again, we're transitioning from breakdowns to breakthroughs. Okay, what I went through after having these children and being a single mom, how I transitioned from that breakdown to that breakthrough. And it's just the whole story and how we can actually integrate that in our lives, and how the things that we go through, how they make us, and what the intention of those occurrences that we go through. This is what message that God is trying to convey. We always try to do things without consulting with Him, without praying about things, and so on. So that is what this book is about. I talk about so many different.
Don't give us too much of the tea. They got to buy the book. Don't give us too much tea.
I talk about a lot of, it's pretty much how I went from being down and out to how I broke the chain. How I just said, you know what, no more holding back. I'm not going to be bound by this no more. I'm going to move forward, and this is how I move forward. Transitioning from breakdowns to breakthroughs.
Love it so much, so much. And then I do want to talk about one last thing, your podcast, which I had the honor of being on, I think about a month ago.
Yes.
Talks with the Lady. Tell us about that.
Okay, so Talks with the Lady came out in March of 2024, so it's only been about 3 months. Um, and I was sitting here one day and I was just thinking like, okay, again, I gotta do more. I gotta really get this out. This was my initial reach out to um the community, the neighborhood,
Mhm.
because people used to, again, judge me on certain different things. So I say, hell, I'm just going to talk about it. Let me just go ahead and share with them, this is how I came to where I'm at today. This is what I've had to encounter. So again, I felt like I wasn't heard very, very clearly. So I said, you know what? There's so many people that are struggling right now with life, even with like inflation and stuff. You got people stealing, you got people homeless now because they can't afford rent. You got people. So let me go ahead and reassure them. Let's talk about it. Let's just talk about the different occurrences. What are the issues that we face today in society? And there's a lot.
A
I
lot.
think that that wasn't my primary goal though. Number two, I think that people hide behind a shield. I think that they're not open enough, and I think that they're not exercising their right to speak, freedom of
Mhm.
speech. I think
Mhm.
that they tend to hold a lot of things in. I had to learn to stop holding things in because that is where my depression, me becoming
Yeah.
in a whole different mindset to the point where I would become outraged and just be like, I would shut down from the world because I was holding so much stuff in. So I got on there one day in March. I just went live regular, honey. I didn't have none of this software stuff. I just went live and I just started talking to people. I didn't realize people were having so many problems.
Yeah.
And they just
We
began to
we
get on
going
there.
through it.
Yes. So I say, you know what? I'm gonna come up. I'm gonna do a podcast. Again, that's something else. Like, even my son appeared on my show, on my
Oh.
podcast. We was talking about the love or money, which one makes you happy?
Oh,
And
I gotta listen to that one. I gotta
yes,
go back and listen to that.
yes, it's called Love or Money. Which one makes you happy? And it's also on YouTube, but it's also on my Facebook page. But it literally almost brought tears to my eyes when he was, for one, I'm looking at a man, you know, and for him to say, well, mom, we can all have money. Money only makes us comfortable. But you know what? When you have family, when you have the love of family, like the love that you shown us, that's rich all by itself, and he began to just break down and begin to talk about, at the end of the day, I give out money like it ain't, but my bills are paid, I got this, I got that, and I got this here put to the side, but that's just only to get the things that, but at the end of the day, if I were to trade that in for the love of my family, I would really want the love of my family over money, because because he began to reflect on when they were coming up, when they was kids. He said, I remember us out there riding the bicycle. We were catwalking on the bike. He said those days was fun. Like we
Yeah.
were with our friends. We was with, my sisters and brothers,
Mm.
all us have, and it just, I had to hold it in as much as I could, but
Mhm.
it just let me know that I was doing something right, you know?
Absolutely. I
So
bet you were so proud.
I was, and he
Did
begged
you
to
cry
come.
after?
We stayed on the thing. We was talking. I was like, "Oh my god!" He was like, and then he go with his silliness, talking about, "Yeah, now the lady's really gonna be after me," and I'm like, "Oh," I'm like, "Just what I thought. I taught you something, you know."
Right, right.
But he's a clown. He is definitely a clown. Because I could be that
Mhm.
way
I
sometimes.
was gonna say you silly too now.
Yes,
You
I'm a
silly
I'm a
too.
little comedian. I'm a little comedian, and but it's all out of love. I laugh to keep from crying. You get what I'm saying?
Mhm. I
So,
do.
and I haven't always been happy. I used to walk around with just just a still look, like
Mhm.
a resting bee face, you know.
Mhm.
But now I just get up and I walk around. I work 10 hours a day, and I got up and got off that bus. I was like, higher, how are you? Because
Mhm.
even though I'm tired, God is still sustaining me. I'm still okay. I still got the energy to keep pushing, and I still got to keep going. So yeah, I'm I'm overjoyed. I'm happy that I encounter everything that I've had to go through, because not all of it was bad. It was some greatness that came out of it, and the greatness is shown in my seeds. You know.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just like when I went on your show, I was very surprised to learn that you had just recently started it. Like I thought you was doing that for a long time because you're just so natural and genuine, and you know how to bring things out of people, because
Right.
people feel comfortable, speaking with you. And so I think you have a gift,
Yes.
and I'm so glad that you are sharing your gift with all of us out here on these internet streets because we need it.
Right.
We do need it.
Mhm.
Is there any before I let you go? Because I got you on longer than an hour, so I apologize for that. But we
It's
were just having
okay.
a we were having a good conversation. I didn't want to stop.
Hey, listen, you know what? And I'm here to support you in whatever it is that you do, because I love your group. I feel like I can get on here and talk to, this is like more like the mental wellness podcast. You
Hmm.
get what I'm saying? So I'm able to
Absolutely.
get on here, and if I can help anybody else, or to be able to talk to them, or in whatever way, and share my experiences, but most of all, how to overcome them. How to lean on, what are your strengths? Lean towards your strengths. What are you strong at? And a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not strong at. Yes, you are,
Yes, you are.
because you're here right now. So you held on a little bit more, and every day it's going to get better and better and better and better. That is what I had to do. But I really admire this. That's why I don't mind supporting you. Anytime you want me back, I'll be more than happy to come back, because I love talking. Ding, ding, ding. And I love just sharing my experiences, and
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
But I do appreciate it. Again, you guys can find her book on Amazon.com. If
Mhm.
you just do a search for her name, Lashana Stewart, it's called Transitioning from Breakdowns to Breakthroughs. Get her book, and then find her on Facebook and tune into the podcast.
Yeah.
Um, it's an amazing show. She has an amazing plethora of diverse guests on her show. So I think anybody can get anything, something from your podcast. So again, thank you, thank you. I
Yes.
I
You're
hope you have a lovely evening, and everyone out there who's tuning in, thank you so much for chatting with us, engaging with us, and listening to our stories tonight. So we'll be back next Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a good night, everyone.
all right. Good night.
Bye.